Hello, my name's Maria Schmitz. Today we're here to talk about part three of Echoes of Humanity. And I have the great pleasure of presenting the new peace paradigm that Paul K. Chappell introduced with his 7-book Road to Peace series. In his discourse on a new peace paradigm, Paul K. Chappell talks about peace, our needs, both spiritual and material, and about the tangles of trauma, which would go beyond the scope of today's video. Paul also reverses the Maslow pyramid, which he finds too oversimplistic. Paul K. Chappell is an international peace educator, the Peace Literacy Director for the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and the author of the 7-book Road to Peace. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said of Paul, Captain Paul K. Chappell has given us a crucial look at war and peace from the unique perspective of a soldier, and his new ideas show us why world peace is both necessary and possible in the 21st century. Among my favorite titles are The Art of Waging Peace and The Cosmic Ocean, but also Soldiers of Peace, How to Wield the Weapon of Nonviolence with Maximum Force. If that isn't a metaphor, what is? In his peace literacy seminars, Paul poses three main questions. What if people were as well trained in waging peace as soldiers are in waging war? Secondly, what if people were trained to address the root causes of problems rather than the symptoms? Thirdly, what if we taught peace as a skill set, as a life-saving literacy, with as much rigor as we teach literacy in reading and writing? These questions and their answers arose during Paul's own journey from war to peace and from rage to realistic hope. After asking audiences hundreds of times what our needs are, he continues to notice several human needs that they almost never mention. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs lists physical needs such as food, water, and safety as our most basic needs, but this hierarchy is flawed, Paul says, because it does not recognize how purpose and meaning serve as a foundational need that helps us more reliably fulfill these physical needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs requires rewiring as it oversimplifies the complexity of the human condition. These needs are purpose and meaning, nurturing relationships, explanations, expression, inspiration, belonging, self-worth, challenges, and transcendence. What is more important for humans, food or purpose and meaning? We are the only species on the planet, Paul says, that can commit suicide even when we have food, water, safety, shelter, freedom, and good health. The human vulnerability reminds him of the saying from Jesus, man does not live by bread alone. This human vulnerability also reminds him of a quote from philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. In other words, a person who has a why to live for, a purpose in life, can bear almost any how, that is, almost any hardship. Next, there is belonging. Belongingness is a driving force of human behavior, not a third-tier activity. The system of human needs from bottom to top are dependent on our ability to connect with others. Belonging to a community provides a sense of security and agency that makes our brains happy and helps keep us safe. So here's a problem with Maslow's hierarchy. None of these needs, such as food and safety, starting with basic survival on up, are possible without social connection and collaboration. None of Maslow's needs can be met without social connection. When Paul asks audiences about our human needs, another need that is almost never mentioned is our need for self-worth, he says. Then he asks, is self-worth a basic human need? What is more important for humans, self-worth or staying alive? After giving people a few moments to ponder, he says it depends on the person. And then he discusses how people can prioritize self-worth over staying alive. Julius Caesar, for example, who became emperor of Rome through military conquest, said, prestige has always been of prime importance to me, even outweighing life itself. Caesar placed a higher priority on prestige, status, and self-worth than on staying alive, and this was reflected in his actions. On many occasions, he risked his life in war to protect and increase his prestige, status, and self worth. Today, those who do not commit suicide kill themselves slowly through alcoholism, drug addiction, stress, and some other means. Let's go into explanations. Explanations create our worldview. Because our worldview shapes our sense of purpose, meaning, belonging, and self worth, people can also react aggressively to threats upon their worldview because their sense of purpose, meaning, belonging, or self worth is threatened. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when people lack the basics, they simply want the basics. But in every known culture, when people lack the basics, they also want explanations of why they lack food, water, and safety, for example. They also want answers. What we must understand is that our worldview can function like a force field, and facts and evidence can bounce off that force field. Paul also talks about two kinds of poverty. What our shared human hunger for purpose, meaning, belonging, self worth, and explanations reveals is, he says, that there are two kinds of poverty. The first kind is material poverty. The second kind of poverty is what we call spiritual poverty, or can call spiritual poverty. Cindy Blackstock says spirituality should not be misinterpreted to mean organized religion alone. Rather, it is a personally defined force that centers our sense of self, community, and world across time. Spiritual poverty consists of poverty of purpose and malnutrition of meaning. Spiritual poverty can also consist of poverty of belonging and self worth. It can occur when our explanations are based on propaganda rather than truth, and when we lack a worldview that has high ideals, the kind of high ideals that help us live with integrity, empathy, courage, and an attitude of service to others. Lacking the basic needs is considered material poverty. In a similar way, when people have unhealthy sources of purpose, meaning, belonging, self worth, and explanations that promote violence and injustice, we can consider this spiritual poverty. And the people suffering from spiritual poverty are far more dangerous than those suffering from material poverty. In other words, if a person has unhealthy sources of food and water, that person is not nearly as dangerous as someone who has unhealthy sources of purpose, meaning, belonging, self worth, and explanations. If we want to create a more peaceful and just world, it is important to not only reduce material poverty, we must also reduce spiritual poverty. We must also increase truth, justice, and beauty, because trauma can lead to both material poverty and spiritual poverty, along with extremism and violence. Creating a more peaceful and just world requires us to learn how to heal trauma. As we have seen, peace literacy also views peace as a skill set. The skill set of peace literacy empowers us to feed our spiritual cravings in healthy ways, reduce material poverty and spiritual poverty, untangle trauma from our lives and society, heal the root causes of our human problems, and increase realistic peace in our personal lives, communities, country, and world. So, as I said at the outset, the tangles of trauma and what even more so, healing it, would go far beyond the scope of this short video. So I hope this has been very informative in any case.